Thank you very much for inviting me to talk about this. I came well armed with slides, and probably far too many, so I'm going to skip a few as we go along and give you the core essentials of this. I was glad to hear Roger's talk. I was rather worried that we might be significantly out of kilter. In fact, on some of the main points we're quite together, although my work that I'm going to describe isn't as up-to-date as Roger's, so it's dealing with the position of market towns, or small rural towns as I call them, pre-recession, or pre the moment we knew we were in a recession. I'm not sure when that was. But anyway, and I want to report mostly on the creation of a typology of market towns from a national point of view. As I will say, I think it's quite important that we do have a significant top-down view as well as a bottom-up view of these places, and endeavour to get our evidence together so that our evidence meets somewhere in the middle, and we can learn from best practice of particular places, and also look at some more strategic policy issues in relation to these places. So the outline of the talk is there. Why do we need more evidence on small towns? What's actually involved in building evidence on this? Because one of the real problems, I think, of the reason why we lack this top-down, sub-regional, regional, sub-regional evidence is because it is quite a palaver actually getting the evidence together. I want to intersperse with all this will be small towns and what we call the new, or I call the new rurality, which Roger has alluded to, the interlinkage of rural and urban economies. Then I want to talk about the typology which I've developed for ANT, and then some applications of that. And I'd be very interested to see what you think of where we go from there. It's important to note that this is a work in progress. There's always academic justification for doing anything you like pretty well, and sometimes it has policy relevance. But the approach to a strategic look at small rural towns is tricky. There are some interesting conceptual and operational issues of trying to understand what's going on. So the questions I think we might first is it worth doing anyway? Is what I've done here, has it been worth my while? If the unanimous view is no, then we won't have much of a discussion. But if it's yes, then have we set about it the right way? And what might we do to improve it? Okay, the significance of these places I think be summed up in the word pivotal. And they're pivotal in three senses. In population terms, they stand the smaller towns and larger villages, which I'm going to talk about 1,600 of them, represent nearly 11 million people. That's quite a chunk of the population of the country, actually. So our view of these places as somehow small twee settlements, if we add all the population up, we're dealing with an awful lot of people. They're pivotal in terms of their location. They actually operate in this interesting middle area between the bigger cities, and the villages and hamlets. They're quite critical to in this sort of interlocutionary role between the two. And they're critical and pivotal in terms of policy. And my contention here, I think this also gels a bit with Roger, is that they're frequently mentioned in policy documents. Everyone scatters the word market town around. But I'm not sure they're actually followed through in a serious manner, strategically and sub-regionally. Okay, I've mentioned one or two of these things, so these are probably slides that I can skip. Just to point out there on the significance in demographic terms, I'm dealing with a very arbitrary definition of small towns. They happen to be places with between 1,500 and 40,000 population. No notion of whether they're market towns or any real functional sense in that, just an arbitrary slice of the town population of the country. And as I mentioned, about 11 million people overall in 2001, about 90% of the rural population, in fact, which is just about all there is in rural.